In 1916, a 14-year-old boy ventured into Yosemite Valley. He held his new box Brownie camera in his hands and looked through the lens for the first time. He defined this encounter with the valley as a culmination of experience so intense as to be almost painful. Every year he returned, exploring the Sierra with his camera. At the end of his life, he would remark, "In wisdom gathered over time, I have found that every experience is a form of exploration."
Photography was invented and given openly to the world, the way to do it, the formula, in 1839. And right from the beginning, from 1839, there were people who said that photography could be an art form. But at the same time, there were many more people who said photography could never be an art form because it was made by a machine, the camera.
When Adams began photographing, a style called pictorialism was popular, in which photographers would manipulate their photographs to look like paintings, drawings, or some other established form of art. In 1902, Ansel Adams was born in San Francisco. After his first encounter with Yosemite, he took up photography as a hobby and made many prints mimicking the pictorialist style. In 1919, he became a member of the Sierra Club. His first published photographs and writings appeared in the club's 1922 bulletin. One day, in 1927, everything changed. He scrambled up Diving Board Rock on the shoulder of Half Dome. With one photographic plate left, Adams looked through the lens and suddenly visualized the final print he desired. He added a red filter to darken the sky and add drama.
I would say most importantly, he explored what he would later call the zone system. And the zone system, of course, gives us mathematical equations and steps to properly expose film, to develop it and print it. One of Ansel's very first early successes here in the park, Monolith, the Face of Half Dome, which he took up at the diving board. Ansel was up there and he began to realize that he had all these tools available to him, filters specifically in this case, that allowed him to control exposure, to control tonality, to control contrast. And it was out of that whole concept and idea that he could change the quality of light going through the lens at that time that led to the zone system. And so I would say that is the most important technical thing that he gave us.
From then on, he knew that photography could not just be a hobby. Beginning with Monolith, Adams began to explore a concept he termed visualization. He believed that a photograph should express what the artist feels, not simply what is literally there.
My basic approach to photography depends on the visualization of the final print before exposure is made. When you visualize a photograph, it is not only a matter of seeing it in the mind's eye, but it's also and primarily a matter of feeling it.
He became part of a circle of like-minded artists that embraced the belief that a photograph should look like a photograph and not be manipulated to look like a painting or some other form of art. This group included notable photographers such as Edward Weston, Imogen Cunningham, Willard Van Dyke, and later Dorothea Lange. They would become Group F64, named for the smallest aperture on large format view cameras at the time, a setting that enabled the lens to capture an incredibly high degree of sharpness. Although the group lasted but a few years, its impact was immense. F64 served as a platform for the creative exchange of ideas and was the first significant organization to fight for recognition of photography as its own art form. During the 1930s, economic depression and social unrest enveloped the nation. Some photographers, such as Dorothea Lange, sought to document this turmoil and call for change. However, Adams continued to explore and photograph primarily what he loved, the landscape of the American West. For not confronting social problems, he was criticized. Photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson remarked, "The world is going to pieces, and people like Adams are photographing rocks." However, photographing rocks allowed him to accomplish one of his greatest environmental achievements. In 1936, he traveled to Washington, D.C. on behalf of the Sierra Club to lobby for the establishment of Kings Canyon National Park. He presented his portfolio, Sierra Nevada, the John Muir Trail, to convince Congress of the unique beauty of the area. In 1940, it became a national park. The next year, he encountered a scene that would change his life.
Ansel was driving and he saw this image across the road ahead of him that he was sort of excited about. We pulled over and got the camera out, the tripod out, and he was rushing, and he said, "You hurry, and we've got to get this set up because we're going to lose the light." And he got the camera on the tripod, he got everything set, ready to go. He could not find his light meter, but he knew that the illumination of the moon is 250-foot candles, and from that he could derive his exposure. He took one picture, which you see there, and before he could take a second image, the light was gone on the crosses in the foreground. So there's only one negative of that particular image. It's probably his most famous image. I can say that I was there.
Moonrise was the image that would lead him to great fame and has been hailed as the greatest photograph ever taken. That same year, Pearl Harbor was attacked. Too old to enlist, Adams searched for ways to assist the war effort. He got that chance in 1943. The previous year, Executive Order 9066 had been signed, and 110,000 people of Japanese ancestry living on the West Coast were relocated to internment camps across the country. Adams was invited by camp director Ralph Merritt to photograph internees at Manzanar internment camp. Adams gladly accepted. On arrival to Manzanar, he encountered what he considered a great injustice.
He made 4 trips to Manzanar in 43 and 44. I went on 2 of them with him, and I can remember it. It was a Army controlled camp. There were barbed wire, there were guard towers, there were soldiers with guns. Ansel, in the 4 trips, took a lot of photographs of the people in the camp, how they handled it, how they, in effect, survived, how they lived, and put this together in a documentary, a book entitled Born Free and Equal.
Deeply opposed to the internment of American citizens, he stated that the purpose of his work was to show how these people, suffering under a great injustice, had overcome the sense of defeat and despair by building for themselves a vital community in an arid but magnificent environment. To this day, his photographs of smiling Americans are criticized. They contrasted sharply with Dorothea Lange's heart-wrenching images. Adams would state, "It is just as important to bring the people evidence of beauty, of nature and of man, as it is to give a document of ugliness and despair." For the rest of his life, he would endeavor to preserve the beauty of the world. He lobbied Presidents Ford, Carter, and Reagan on environmental protection. The young boy in Yosemite had grown into a photographer who never exchanged art for activism, but merged the two. Perhaps his greatest legacy is in the images he left behind. We continue to explore and encounter the world through Ansel's lens.
The legacy of the photos is they help define how Americans look at wild places. They help define who we are as a people, as a nation. You know, we have a pretty special relationship with wilderness here.
In almost any Ansel image, one of the things that is so great about them is that you're not just looking at them, you're just not seeing a space, you're experiencing space. Moonrise over Hernandez, New Mexico. You can smell the sage in the foreground, that new growth that you can see on the top of the sort of the hardy roots. It feels a little cold, if not for sort of just the crosses in the chapel in the foreground, but for this sort of blank high desert sky that just seems like it's going to be frosty in the morning. Merced River Cliffs Autumn, here in Yosemite, taking Melcap Bridge. It's this massive cliff face in front of you, and actually it goes out of the scene. You can't even see the top of it. So in your mind, all of a sudden, you're picturing this towering cliff that could go as high as anything in the world. There's no sky to stop your imagination, and this river in the foreground that bends around the corner. All you want to do is just go down that riverbank and see what's around the corner. Ansel's images really make you want to step into them and see more, experience more.